Alright, so I'm in the orchard today, and I got a little bit of work to do, but I wanted to go over irrigation, and you can see that everything's starting to bloom, and we got pear trees, peach trees, none of the apples of course, but we got more peach trees blooming, and then the pear tree back there, that's a moon glow right there, and that thing did so good last year. So, basically, it took me a little bit to figure this out, you know, the irrigation, and a lot of people have issues with it, and they've got all these Amazon kits that are just absolute trash. They're just terrible. They're cheap. They don't last. A lot of times they're not even UV resistant, and then a lot of people use PVC. It's really not UV resistant. Like a couple years in the sun and it's toast. It'll get really brittle and crack, and then you go on vacation and then you come back and all your plants are dead. So I found that the Mr. Landscaper set system, I guess, from like Lowe's. I get it at Lowe's. It works really well. It's impervious to sun damage seemingly, because I've had stuff out now for 7 years, no issues. I've hit it with I've run over it with the tractor, no real issues. I mean, granted, if you drag something over it, nothing's impervious to a tractor, but hit it with the mower, and it's really easy to fix. It's relatively cheap to fix. Now, no good irrigation system is cheap. Not one that works anyway. So I'm not saying that this is cheap, but it's not terribly expensive either. And it's really easy to use, at least the way I do it. So I was down in Charlottesville the other day, and I was right next to the Restore, and so I always stop in. You never know what kind of deals you find. Normally you find some pretty good ones, especially if you've got a place like mine. You can always find something useful, whether it's a solid wood door that just needs refinishing or whatever the case is. But anyway, I hit the flipping mother load. I use this Mr. Landscaper set system, and it uses these 50, it's made in the USA too, but you can see $5 right there. That's what I paid at the Restore. And this is a 50-foot line, half-inch line, and it's UV resistant, all that other jazz work. The 50-footers were $5. The 100-foot was $15. So I just bought all the 5s. Throw a coupler in it and call it a day. And this stuff is just excellent. It's relatively cheap, but to start out, they make adapters that you could just hook that right to your house and basically treat it like a garden hose. Now, granted, it does kink and things like that, and so it's not a garden hose, and it doesn't replace a garden hose, but they make a little twist lock adapters. You can put it right onto the spigot if you want. I however use timers. This is an Orbit timer. Both of them are from Lowe's. This is a Aqua timer. I think they're called Felnor now, but it's the same one. They may have upgraded a little bit. These are way more expensive, and they require a minimum of 22 pounds of pressure on your line just to turn on. These require a minimum of like 10 to 12. So if you're on like a gravity system, rainwater collection, that kind of thing, or you just have crappy low pressure out at your garden, this is your jam. And it took a little bit of trial and error to figure that out. The only thing I will say about these is they do fail. They don't not come on, but like they'll lose time and things like that. So you'll notice that you'll look at it and be like, well, it says 8 o'clock, and it's 4 o'clock and kids just got off the bus, kind of thing. So you know that something's up at that point, but I haven't had any issues of them not coming on. So it might just water in the middle of the day, which isn't ideal, but at least your plants are still getting watered. And what I will say, the warranty on these is like 7 years, and they are phenomenal about replacing them. I think I bought 3 initially, and they're about 30 bucks a piece, because I had 3 zones I needed watered, and they would fail. I'd take a picture or whatever they asked me to do, email it, and then a week later I've got a new one in the mail. So they are phenomenal about backing that warranty up. Now granted, I don't take advantage of it. Like if I've been using it for 2 or 3 or 4 years and it's lasted and it shits the bed, then you know, like I figure I got my 30 bucks worth. But if it fails the first year or the second year, yeah, by all means, utilize the warranty. It's why it's there. So that's the timers I use. Typically the Felnor Aqua Timer, or Mr. Landscaper, whatever it's called now, but I do use these, excuse me, if it's hooked up to like the house spigot, like directly to the well. And these are pressure regulators, and these do matter. You'll learn the hard way that it matters, and one is they come in 25 psi and then 50. Now most houses, you know, come out about 50, 60. The problem is that if you're running drippers, like if you're running tomatoes or something like that, that want it at the roots instead of a sprinkler, or you know, like a fan. If you run a bunch of drippers and you're running 50 psi, they'll just blow the drippers off. It's just too much pressure. Now, if you're running sprinklers, you're golden. It doesn't really matter, you know. And if you got a bunch of sprinklers, it really doesn't matter, because each one is going to reduce that pressure by a little bit, even though it's only run on a 1/4 inch line. So I get a couple different pressure regulators. If it's mainly a drip system, I run 25 pounds, and just, you know, the sprinklers will run on that. They may not run at the optimum pressure, but I don't have to worry about a dripper blowing off, you know. And then I got a couple 50s, couple 25s, and I just kind of play with them. But if it's a sprinkler system, 50 is okay. If it's a drip system, you need 25. And you really do need them, because again, don't skimp out. That's probably the most expensive part aside from the timer. That's the single most expensive part to it, but you only need a couple. And then, so we got the supply line, the timers, the pressure regulator, and then the line that goes directly. Now you can run drippers directly off of your 1/2 inch line, just pop an emitter in and go, but I like to have a little bit of flexibility. So I opt for the 1/4 inch line that use a coupler, and you punch a little hole in there and in the supply line. And I'll go over that in another video. This is just basically the system that I use. And so the 1/4 inch line goes into the 1/2 inch line, and you'll see that in another video. And it's just very clean. You can wrap it around the plant and it stays out of the way. And then these are the sprinkler sets. And granted, I got all this stuff dirt cheap, so it won't be $1. I think they're about $3 or $4, maybe. Hell, they might even be $5. I can't remember. I haven't bought them in a while. But the thing is once you buy it, it's done. You're good. And then there's a little locking collar here. This comes off and goes here. Sorry, goes right there. And then that will keep this from expanding when you screw your emitter in, or your sprinkler or whatever. So here, actually I think I opened. Yeah, here we go. So I got my little case. So this is just an example. So that little collar will go right here, and then these are threaded, and these go in. You can thread them in, and you can just force them in too. But boom, and then you're golden. It works pretty good. They don't come undone. And there are tons of different kind of sprinklers that you can do. So let's see here. So this is a 165-degree half circle. So it's not 360. It's just doing, you know, a little less than 180, and it's punching it out in one direction. So you're not wasting a bunch of water. That's the good thing about these, especially if you've got like a rainwater collection, and then say on a on-demand pump or something like that. These will not waste water like you know, this is a very efficient system. Like they do not overutilize water at all. And then they just got all kinds of stuff. And these are little sprinkler heads. You can kind of see them here. And what's that? 5 to 7 foot diameter. And this is more or less what I've got on where I do my pumpkins. And we had flowers in there this year. And then in the garden too. I mean, I got them everywhere. And honestly, I found that once you get your garden laid out or whatever you're gonna do, you really need to measure and figure out where, how much, you know, of a broadcast you're gonna need for your water. What else? And then this is the little tool, and you'll be seeing this in another video. So that's the little tool you punch it in. These are little goof plugs. And then to connect, to connect everything, I use these Lasco fittings, and they're relatively inexpensive. These tees are only like 30 or 40 cents, and they're threaded. I don't know if you can see. You can kind of see that they're threaded to a degree, and then they're barbed. So they're threaded up here, and then they're barbed here, and then that goes in there, maybe. And then you can just kind of screw it in. Of course, I've picked a T and it won't do it. But anyway, that's how it goes in. And then these are the Apollo stainless steel poly pipe pinch clamp. So it's the same clamp that you can use on wells and stuff, like well line. And then this is the tool. And they just pinch together, you know, and it's really, really tight. If you go trying to tape it, tying it off, I mean, you might be able to wire it, but these are cheap. I mean, the tool's 12, 15 bucks, and those things are a couple, you know, like maybe 25 cents a piece. Maybe not even that. Nah, that's about what they are. I think it's about $2.50 a pack. There's 10 in a pack, so you might be able to get them on Amazon cheaper. But that's the system as it sits, and then I'll do a little example. I got to do it on my blueberries. Like I noticed my blueberries were looking like crap over here, and they were awesome over here. And it's because they didn't have any daggone water last year. So you know, I screwed up, but we'll fix it and get it sorted, and then I'll do an example, a couple examples on how to get everything plugged in. All right, so already got me a little piece cut off here. So this is that 1/4-inch line I was talking about. And you know, the stuff sits in a spool so long it just wants to always curl, which, you know, you can curl it around the plant itself. These actually were self-propagators. They kind of just rooted out on their own. And this stuff, you know, the pipe itself, this 1/4-inch stuff, if you have a PVC cutter, it's easily it's the easiest way to cut this. And then I actually prefer, they've got half-gallon drippers, 1 gallon, 2 gallon, but I actually prefer these adjustables. If they get clogged, you can unclog them. They are more expensive out of the gate, but if they get clogged, you can unclog them, and then you can just adjust the water. So it just makes more sense to me. They just come apart here. I'll show you. Whoops. So they just unscrew, and then you can clear them out if they get any kind of debris in them, and then screw them back, and then the tighter they go, the less water they punch out. And then now I won't be doing any water on this because it just doesn't need it, but it needs to be done, and this is the time that I have to do it. So use these little couplers. All right, and basically all I do is I take my little puncher, and I bought a few more because I do lose these, and I always make my line longer than it needs, just because this stuff's pretty cheap. So you punch your hole in there, and I take my little coupler or whatever, and it just screws in. Well, it doesn't even screw in, it's just a push fit, and then you'll get like a little pop. And then this guy over here, it's the same thing. And you can push these emitters, these guys, directly into this 1/2-inch line, and they work fine. I just prefer to have a little bit more flexibility And what I'll do is kind of let it do what it's going to do. And then I'll just put something, so I've got, you know, 3 plants here essentially. And so I might give this a little bit more water, and that's another advantage to having an adjustable dripper versus a fixed dripper, because there's less chance of overwatering or underwatering or whatever. And that's as simple as it gets, you know. And I've got tons of different parts in here, but you know, this is the most tedious part of it probably, is going to each individual plant and punching it out. But you could fix this line if you got a really straight, if you're better at planting than I am, and they're really straight. You can carry this line down, and just punch them directly in there, and then you can just avoid the 1/4 inch line altogether. I just kind of like it this way. And then with blueberries, I've got a lot of strawberries in here, and then I do sulfur, which raises the acidity, lowers the pH, and then I do hollytone, which feeds everything. It's a little bit of a fertilizer, and it also lowers the pH. Blueberries need, they love acidity. They really like an acid-based soil. Strawberries do too, but not to the extent that blueberries do. But because the strawberries are more of a surface plant, you can plant the two together, and the strawberry doesn't really get, you know, doesn't have deep roots. A very shallow root system. So it's you know, you can plant them together and do what you're going to do to the blueberries, and your strawberries will do pretty well as well. And then I've got trees in here, so what I do with the trees is I'll put lime just around the tree, and then around their specific drip line. And then, you know, sometimes, like, if you've got a blueberry that's close, you know, obviously I want the peach to do better than the blueberry, so I might end up moving a blueberry, you know, later on down the line, or if it's showing signs of struggling, I'll go ahead and move it. But I try to keep, you know, 5, 6, 7 feet. But like over here, I'm like 3 feet. Over here, I'm like 3 or 4 feet, so on and so forth. So, you know, it's just, you got to play with stuff and to get it right. And sometimes you might have one plant that you want to do better than the others, or it's going to have a higher yield, or whatever the case is. So obviously, like a tree it's more expensive. It's way more invasive. So you want them to do well. But anyway, that doesn't matter. It doesn't have anything to do with this. So that's basically the cut and dry of plugging this up. And I'll do another one over here, and show you, you know, how easy it is. Well, there goes my thing. And I try to keep all my stuff together, but now I've got so much that I'm not going to be able to. So again, you know, I just kind of, and I'll weave this into the plant, so, you know, like right there, it looks good to me. That's just what I had. So it doesn't have to be terribly long, but I tried to get it straight to a degree, but it's been sitting in that box for a year or two. And this stuff is all UV stable. If you use PVC, you're just begging for a headache. But yeah, it'll work for a while. And everything. But that's just 15 pack. It'll, you know, PVC will work for a while, but it will fail. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's not UV stable unless they're making a UV stable PVC I'm not aware of. So again, we just take our line. We put our little coupler that's going to go directly into the 1/2 inch line. Again, 1/4 inch line, 1/2 inch line. And then we've got our emitter, our adjustable emitter, dripper, whatever you want to call it. We take our little tool, and you can use a Tindy nail, I think I've used. A Tindy is about the right size if necessary. And you plug it in, pop, and then I'll just put that guy right there. And I'll leave it up to the surface if I can, to see when the water comes on if I've got to make any adjustments to the emitter. And that's really about it. I mean, it's super easy, and this is a very fire and forget system, especially when you couple everything with the, excuse me, with the timers. You can go on vacation, you got to worry about it. You know, PVC will fail, and it's kind of like a time bomb. You know, keep that in mind. But yeah, that's what I got. All right, well, thank you for watching.